Gary,
So,
the only people more mad and pissed off than the Brads and Chads and incels in my timeline were apparently the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Good God, we witnessed a murder.
damn, you pissed off everybody, huh?
Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Stridsky. I'm watching that game and I'm like, they're big mad. They
Yes.
are really, really upset about our apparent overreaction to them losing to Northern Illinois. And they were so angry. And I was like, man, I'm out here just making everyone mad. I'm sorry, Notre Dame. My bad.
Elle, here's the thing. I've been told from an early age that you want people to either love you and watch you or hate you and watch you. And I feel like if you are checking all of those boxes, you're winning. So congratulations, my friend. You've cracked the code.
Oh my God. It's so wild. It is wild out here in the streets. It was wild in the NFL. We're actually coming to you from a Sunday record,
Correct.
minutes after the Chiefs have just outlasted the Bengals. We're going to get to all of that. We're recording on a Sunday because Gary is going to the White House for like the fifth time in a month. At some point, I'm going to start believing that you've got a mistress there.
Elle,
You are
straight
there
up,
a
they got
lot,
I already
friend.
told you the initials. They got to put me on the payroll next time. I'm not going to 1600 Pennsylvania if they're not cutting the kid a check. All right. So yeah, actually it is pretty cool because my mom turns 70 on Tuesday. So it's her birthday on Tuesday. And it just so happens to be Korean Thanksgiving. And we've been invited to the White House for their Korean Thanksgiving celebration. So
That's
that's
so
actually
good.
pretty cool. Like I didn't really do much but be Korean thanks to my parents. And I'm getting my mom
Awesome.
like a pretty bad birthday present. And the
Hell
best part is
yes.
it's free.
Didn't have to spin it, but priceless, a priceless experience.
Boom.
Um, so we're gonna get to the NFL in a minute, but last time that we did the show, we were getting ready for the Fever's last opportunity to beat the Aces. They were
Mhm.
0-3 against them. They had one last shot. I had mentioned that pretty much all the big top teams that the Fever had eventually beaten this year, it took the
Yeah.
final game of the season series for them to do that and what that would look like. And they did not. We did not need to worry about that. They did not beat the Fever. A lot of talk right now about Caitlin's frustrations and getting technicals and if that is, a thing that we need to be looking out for in the postseason. And again, I repeat, a lot of people didn't watch Caitlin, I think, in college, at least her whole career. That's very much a part of her personality. In fact, at the tournament, the first game or so of the tournament, it was a point of conversation amongst our guests with Andrea Carter and Shania Gumake, just how she needed to keep her emotions in check, how her team played, particularly well. She didn't play well, but her emotions had really got the best of her, and she acknowledged it. She
Mm.
acknowledges all the time. In fact, Lisa Bluter used to call technicals on her at practice because she gets so fired up. So no, I'm not concerned about her being fiery. I'm not concerned about any of those things or the fact that she, airs her grievances with the refs. But we're so close, Gare Bear, in
Yeah.
terms of the postseason. I mean, we've got a handful of games down the stretch. Uh, we've got Chicago losing to Minnesota and then Atlanta losing to Washington and Atlanta able to hold on.
Yeah, they were playing the Mystics at the time of us firing it up. Meanwhile, the Fever have un game left against the Mystics, the second to worst team in the entire league. So I think the Sky slide in, or excuse me, I think the Dream do slide in because the Sky, while yes, they play the Mystics, they have to play the top seed Liberty to end out their season. So that's no bueno for them. And while you're looking up whatever you're looking up, I like the um I like the range of personality and fieriness that we're seeing out of the Fever because if Caitlin Clark is starting to round into tournament form like we saw her do on the big stage in the tournament, that's obviously what she's going to bring into the playoffs. As it sits right now, them being the sixth seed and actually the Lynx leapfrogged the Sun, which I actually think is a good thing for the Fever. They started the season 0-3 against Connecticut, but I think they match up a little bit better against them. They won the fourth and final matchup. So as it sits right now, that would be the playoff matchup for the Fever against the Connecticut Sun team that they've most recently beat compared to a Lynx team that they most recently lost to, actually in a big way because they were up double digits and the Fisa Collier led the Lynx to that comeback win.
Yeah, and if the Fever face the Connecticut Sun in the postseason, take the under. I mean, Connecticut is really pesky defense.
Hmm.
Nate Carrington is just like a lockdown type of defender. She's very physical. She's, they're going to get under their skin a little bit.
But but to her detriment. And we literally saw that play out the last time they played. It was, getting the cookies, going coast to coast, and then calling out Caitlin and Caitlin Clark literally blowing right past her on the other end of the court. So while yes, that could be good and aggressive, that could also come back and bite her, especially when stakes are elevated, and especially when we know tensions and stakes will be certainly heightened in a 3-game series.
I mean, that's what you do. Like that's
No, for sure.
that listen, you talk your talk and then you end up having to sort of deal with the other side of it. Dejanay knows that people were like clowning her for that. You don't
Hmm.
think that's the first time she's had to step out on a limb? You know who's finding that out the hard way right now? The quarterback for Colorado State, because that's one of the big, talkers after the Colorado State game. Shedeur Sanders doesn't shake them. They see each other at midfield, and the quarterback for Colorado State goes to hold his hand out, and Shedeur's like, nah, bruh. The dude's name is
Yeah.
Braden Fowler Nicolisi, right? Or whatever.
Hmm.
And he's like, nah, I heard you talking a bunch of on Instagram. And people were like, oh, what do you make of what Shedeur did? And I'm like, did you hear the quote that the quarterback said? I mean, he tried to cash a check that his could not actually cash. He said a bunch of things, but to end it, here's the quote: at the end of the day, you have to line up 11 guys against our 11 guys, and we'll find out who wants it more, and we'll see how far Instagram followers gets them. So I don't blame Shedeur at all. You had a whole bunch to say, and now I'm not going to shake your hand. Who cares?
We talked about this ahead of the game, and I was heavy on Colorado State winning this game because they had a receiver, Colorado State, who basically said he even doubled down harder and was like, "Yo, we should have murdered
Murdered.
CU. We should have murdered them last year at Folsom Field." That game went to overtime, and then Braden Fowler Nicolosi. The video is hilarious, and I want to know which one you think is funnier. He actually sought out Shedeur Sanders, and hey, once the clock hit 0 at the end of the day, tip my cap. You got the better of me. But Shedeur was like, yo, I did hear you talking all that. So I think Shedeur actually does get the pass here of not shaking his hand, and then Fowler Nicolosi walks off. But the biggest and the most egregious thing that quarterback did was during the game when he was scrambling on like a 3rd and forever, he picked up a single yard. Travis Hunter forced him out, and he gave Travis Hunter the too small on the sideline on like a 3rd and long that he didn't convert. Oh, we had Lewis Riddick, Trevor Maddich, like Paul Feinbaum on SportsCenter this morning, and Lewis Riddick has seen more ball. He's forgotten more ball than some of us will ever watch. Was like, Travis Hunter is the best football player athlete I have seen. And he ended the sentence right there. So for anybody to come at Travis Hunter, who had 10 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, like, oh, he should 100% be a Heisman finalist. And this might be like a Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart situation. If Colorado continues to put up big numbers like this, they're not going to win a ton of games where they might have to split votes. If Shedeur Sanders keeps throwing for 4 touchdowns and half of those touchdowns keep going to Travis Hunter, and he's playing 70 snaps a game with interceptions, they're going to cancel each other out in Heisman votes. That's crazy to talk about a team who has 2 players like that might not make a bowl game.
Correct. Well, I mean, and I think that's the frustrating part for Colorado. You saw what Shedeur Sanders is capable of if his offensive line can block and give him a little bit of time. If the
They
kid
kept
can,
him
can
clean, 1 sack.
yeah, he kept him clean. Like it's the first time we've seen it this season. If you can keep him clean, maybe he had a win one for the Gipper moment when he sort of called him out a little bit last week. We talked about
Yeah.
that on the show, but he had a clean pocket for the most part, and he was able to execute perfectly. Travis Hunter's a freak. Travis Hunter is also inspiring a generation. I don't know if it's good or bad, or if it's one of those situations where it's like it's anomalous, right? Like we talk sometimes about people, it's like, oh, Victor Wembanyama is going to inspire a new generation of kids. To be what? 7'4"? I mean, Travis Hunter feels
You're
like
stupid.
Ray, he feels like a freak. Like
Mhm.
every snap on offense and defense. And
Yeah.
it's one of those situations too where I thought it was like more obvious what Deion was better at, right? Like in terms
Yes.
of was he a better offensive player or a defensive player? It's not as obvious with Travis Hunter. He's really, really excellent at both. And honestly, would be a first round pick in either way, I think, just
Which is
watching him.
insane. Which is insane to think that dude can go first round either or. And it is pretty cool how we're seeing athletes evolve into this. I mean, obviously we have Shohei in Major League Baseball. I'm talking like these unicorn athletes, and Travis Hunter, who is going to be sort of like a Steph Curry was for the undersized basketball player.
Yes.
You don't have to dunk. You don't have to jump 6 foot. All you have to do is be able to pull from 30 feet. Travis
Right.
Hunter is going to have a lot of kids wanting to go two ways. I mean, a lot of kids play two ways anyway, but it's going to be exciting to see because now Colorado, they're 2-1, a little bounce back game. He had the offensive line behind him during the post game press conference, Shedeur and Travis Hunter. So if at the very least, see you for another couple weeks is going to be in the A blocks across all of our programming at ESPN because they won the way they did.
By the way, I understand fully before, the already annoyed dudes in my timeline make it aware. Yes, a lot of kids play two-way all through high school, but I think what he's going to inspire them to do is, and it's the reason he said he wanted to play for Deion, why he was willing to go to Jackson State with him and then follow him to Colorado, was that he was the only coach that encouraged him to be a two-way player instead of saying focus on one or the other, or you double your chance at injury if you play both. And so I think
Sure.
what Travis Hunter's going to do is have kids thinking instead of sort of playing both and letting another coach figure out which one they're better at. I think there's going to be more kids who force the issue and, and make sure that they're, if they have a desire to make sure that they really stand on that. They've got this sort of example, a recent example,
Yeah.
because it's something that we used to see.
You know what's hilarious, real quick, on Travis Hunter? Is you think he's laughing now because he decided to go to Jackson State and follow Deion instead of going to Deion's alma mater because his next choice was Florida State.
Yo,
And they are a dumpster fire right now,
yo,
dude. So
bruh.
Travis Hunter's winning, even if CU isn't winning that much.
This is bad. I
It's
mean,
it's very bad.
it's really, really bad in Tallahassee. It's interesting because I think the headlines keep popping back up like, well, now this is really going to see us seeing Deion Sanders go to
Mhm.
FSU. They have so many more problems than I think Deion can ever solve. I mean, this is fundamentally bad for a team to go 13-0 just a season ago. I am well aware of all the transfers. I am well aware of the fact that they, had some dudes go to the draft. I'm well aware of the fact that they don't have a quarterback. And I repeat, I know DJ Uyunglele is technically there, but they don't have a quarterback. I mean, it's just to be able to compete in these legacy programs in the Power Five,
Mhm.
you have to be able to reload. And no one feels bad for you when you don't. I mean, I'm watching the Georgia game and I'm just feeling the rage monster inside of me. Like we're better than this. It's been 15 straight times that we've beat Kentucky. And alas, like I'm like, you've got to be better. You've got to do better. Carson Beck, you're sucking right now and you're this. And that. But then the other part of me, the angel on my shoulder, is like, shut the they haven't lost a regular season game in many, many years. Like
Yes.
not months, years. Okay. And they've only lost in the last few years to teams named Alabama with Nick
Mhm.
Saban. And
I'm
so to
familiar.
be not only a contender, a number one ranked team, even though they just got booted by Texas, who we're about to get to be able to compete at that level every
Mhm.
single year is a testament to the foresight it takes to recruit and to get the good guys in the building. And obviously, it's a little bit of luck involved, but man, that's tough. And FSU is just it sucks, Gary, because as college football lovers, it's important for the Florida teams to be good. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been trying to make the U a thing for a long time. It looks like they are. Cam Ward, again, a guy that was at FSU till they went and got DJ, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to go then, right? Like I'm going to bounce." Or at least, no, no, no. Yeah, he was at FSU. Goes to
Washington State.
the Washington State, right?
And
Wasn't he?
then,
And then yeah, he was at FSU, went to Washington State, and then came to Miami.
yeah.
Right. And so it's just you want the Florida teams to be good, and Florida State are hot garbage.
Yeah. If we're labeling this on the panic meter, which sounds like it's an apropos game, I'm absolutely hitting panic. I mean, we've passed the level of worry and we're not chill about it. If those are our three ranking tiers here, chill, worried, and panic. And this is a panic at the disco. This is panic in Tallahassee, even though they signed Mike Norvell to an extension, so they would have to pay him out. But Florida State got those deep pockets.
They do, but man, those deep pockets are starting to get really, really
Yeah,
pissed off. Like
because they're paying a couple people.
this is hopeless. And it's starting to
Yeah.
feel that way. I mean, this is as bad as they've been since Willie Taggart. All right, let's do that then. Let's do the panic meter on Texas, and not Texas, because after what you just witnessed from Arch Manning, who came in after Quinn Ewers went down with a strained abdominal, and what did he have? 4 touchdowns, the
It was sick.
65-yard touchdown where we learned that clearly some speed does exist in the Manning
Come on.
family. I
Hey,
mean,
people
he can
forget that his
scoot.
uncles are slow. His uncles and his grandpa are slow. But remember,
Cooper.
his dad is the position player. His dad was the all-state stud receiver. So clearly it didn't skip a generation uncle to nephew. It stayed straight down the path of dad to son. Yo,
So the
Arch got the
question
wheels.
So the question is, after what you just saw, if you're Quinn Ewers, if you're Texas, you are feeling great. You're like
Mhm.
most people when their starting quarterback goes down, they are combing the wires to see
Yeah.
any update. Will he be available? Oh my God. In this case, they're like, take your time, Quinn. You know what? Take
Which,
a breather, boo. Just take a respite. Just kick it. It's fine. So
hey,
would you
listen,
be panicked if you were him?
not a shot. Super
No.
chill. I think
Okay.
he knows that. I think Sark knows that. I think that's why he decided to come back. Listen, he's going to be a dude who plays on Sundays anyway. Texas is going to be the new number one ranked team in the country when the new poll comes out. But before Quinn Ewers got hurt, he was 14 of 16. He
Yeah.
had 2 incompletes, and a couple of those completions and incompletions were due to the abdominal strain that he was playing through. He had, I think, a touchdown or two before he went out in the first half. He's fine. And I don't think this is a situation where he's going to get Drew Bledsoe here, Wally pipped, or whatever it is. I just think now it's scarier for the ops to know that they have 2 number 1. We always say if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. Texas is the finally the exception. They got 2 quarterbacks. They got 2 quarterbacks. Yo, Arch Manning had 3 incompletions the rest of that game. So as a total, they had 5 incompletions between the two and 6 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns. It's sick.
Okay. So yes, it was UTSA. I'm going to give a little bit to that. It was the University of Texas San
Hey, you
Antonio.
play who's on the schedule. They
You play who's
smoked
on the
CSU
schedule.
52 nothing.
I'm with you. I don't think he's about to get Wally pipped, but you're definitely a little bit not panicked or even worried, but you're just going, because of this fact solely. Up to this point, Quinn Ewers was the known commodity and Arch Manning was the unknown commodity. And
Mhm.
when you're talking about risk and risk management, you want to mitigate as much risk as possible. And so, sort of what Quinn always had on his side was if you move on from me, you already know that I can be good for you, even if sometimes I can be uneven. You know what I can do for you. You may not know what Arch can do for you, but you certainly don't know how he could this up, right? Like you don't know yet. And now you a little bit do. Now you feel very comfortable should you
Mhm.
need to about sort of pulling that trigger a lot quicker. That's just what it feels like to me. But again, I don't think that Quinn is going anywhere. And I think that Texas fans feel really, really confident about where they're at. Maybe not so much for
Yeah.
Georgia, but I do think it's the kick in the ass to lose that number one ranking despite beating Kentucky ultimately is exactly what they need.
How about Paul Feinbaum saying this on SportsCenter that Quinn
Yeah,
Ewers going into week 3 was the betting favorite to win the Heisman. He left the game yesterday with injury, but Texas still has a quarterback that's the betting favorite to win the Heisman. He's talking
wild.
about Arch Manning.
That's wild.
That's insane.
That's just bettors getting knee jerked, like prisoner of the moment. The kid's not going to play enough to compete for a Heisman, and that's an actual insult
If
to a
he
guy.
does, though, if he has to assume that role, Paul Feinbaum says that Texas's quarterback will maintain pole position to the Heisman, no
I
matter
love that. That
which
is a
one it
hot
is.
take. That is a
That's sick.
hot take. I would like to see, yes, how Arch does against a little stiffer competition, maybe a Power 5 school. But yeah, I think that the future certainly looks bright
Mhm.
and they can finally when they ask the question and have for the last like 15 years,
Oh,
is
they're
Texas
back.
football back? They're back, baby. They are
They've been
back.
back
You
until
know what?
Arch gets drafted first overall in 2 years.
And then it's back into obscurity with you all. You know what else is back, Gary?
Talk to me.
Too long didn't watch
Hell, I've been waiting for
NFL
this. I've
edition.
been waiting for this. I need to get these jokes off.
All right. So if you guys are new to the show, last year we started this thing called Too Long Didn't Watch, where if you did not have 10, 11 hours in your day on Sundays to sit there and watch all of the games, 16 games, you would At the very least, listen to this. We would give you just punchlines and we would fill you in around everything that happened of importance around the NFL. And that's exactly what we're about to do. Rapid fire, punchline style. Are you ready?
Let's get it. Ladies
Okay.
first.
How about that team from Denver? Finally, with a statement win. Offense showed up, they delivered. They went from looking like a pebble to a boulder. Because, of course, I'm referring to that team from Denver adjacent. Boulder.
The Bucks beat the Lions despite 4.5 sacks from Aiden Hutchinson, which just proves 4.5 is a big, impressive number. But sometimes it doesn't get the job done.
The Chiefs survive the Bengals. Harrison Butker kicks the game winner, but more importantly to him, did half the audience watch it from the kitchen?
Elle, did you?
I did.
Wait, did you really?
I did.
Wait, that's actually hilarious.
I was finishing up dinner.
Let's go. Let's go. Okay. So the target audience reached, and target reached also for Butker, which was the back of the net through the uprights. The Vikings beat the 49ers, who reportedly tried to trade for Justin Jefferson, did the 49ers this offseason. Didn't happen, which proves the one you're with is purty enough.
Last week on First Take, after the Ravens lost to the Chiefs, I said, quote, "Don't panic, they'll be fine." After today, quote the Raven nevermore.
Alvin Kamara had 4 touchdowns in a win versus Dallas. That is a punch in the face and a kick to the that he can't get arrested for. Allegedly. Hey, he beat the Chargers. Allegedly.
Yet again, Aaron Rodgers looked a little immobile in the Jets win, but good news, baby got back, and leaning on them notched him that first win.
And the biggest winner, Hassan Reddick. We're not making light of any jokes or nothing, but JJ going down on the other side of that defensive line, Hassan Reddick probably just saw his stock go through the roof.
They 100% need him now. He has racked up about $8 million in fines for sitting out. So certainly that's going to feel like nothing once he gets his big deal. But man, especially because, again, Aaron Rodgers was able to really utilize his running backs today, and that worked for him. And it's a very small sample size. I understand that it's only been a couple of games, but he's only attempted 3 passes from outside the pocket. Every one of them was incomplete, and he only has completed 1 of 9 passes under pressure. Like, it is very clear that mobility is still an issue for this man. And once he starts facing some better defenses, they're really going to focus in. But I got to be honest with you, on the other side of this win for the Jets was a team that I could care less about. I don't give a damn about the Titans. But I am loving this budding animosity between Will Levis and his coach, Brian Callahan.
Oh, are they beefing?
Oh, dude. So Brian Callahan's the coach last week that basically said, in response to their implosion against the Bears, that if Will Levis had simply just, like, if they had just punted on first and 10 every single time, that essentially they would have won the game. That's what he said.
He said that? The coach said that?
The coach said that about his quarterback, that he still, was trusting in his evolution and growth. But he essentially was like, he imploded and cost us the game. And then today, he seemingly did the same thing where he was trying to, like, make too much happen. They were in the red zone, and then he fumbled the ball, and you can see his coach. And it doesn't take a lip reader to understand what he's saying. He looks at Will Levis and he goes, "What the are you doing?" Because yet again, he cost them points. Just these inexplicable decisions that he keeps making, trying to extend plays where there's just nothing there.
Damn.
And it's been really fun to watch for a team that I kind of could care less about. Although, in an AFC South that doesn't look particularly strong, especially with the Ravens not looking the way that they are, could be a competitive division for the Titans should they turn it around and maybe take the ball out of Will Levis's hands.
Who needs enemies when you got people close in your circle like that?
100%.
Damn.
And we're, of course, all anticipating watching Stephen A. on First Take, like, troll the Cowboys. You say that it's still early and you're not panicking, but I think the problem is that Dak's downfield passing's not there yet. And again, the pride and joy of that team is the defense, or at least with Mike Zimmer, they hoped that it would be. They bring in this genius to replace Dan Quinn, and, like, he's gonna. And after the Browns, who bounced back as well this week, so shout out to them. But I think it just sort of underscored how bad the Browns are, that they were
Mhm.
able to largely hold that offense in check in what was a horrible game for Deshaun Watson. The Saints just listen, this is a team that last year down the stretch won 4 of their last 5 games.
Yeah. They
Like the
got us.
only
They got offensive hitters.
Exactly. Once they got Derek Carr back and got a little bit of consistency, Alvin Kamara had a down year. He's been on fire, as you mentioned, in too long didn't watch. Like the Saints almost made the postseason last year. They lost out because of some tiebreakers, but they would have been a postseason team as well. And they're looking like a formidable opponent, especially in a division where you've got the down Falcons, who are
Mhm.
playing the Eagles on Monday. We'll see if they can have some kind of miraculous statement win, but a Tampa Bay team that's looking really, really good and just took
Tampa
down the
Bay looks
Lions in a
good.
bit of a revenge game. Baker Mayfield looks great as well. Let me ask you this, Gary. If the Bucks, who were in the playoffs last year, if the Bucks can go on a little bit of a run, would you say that Baker Mayfield is one of the like greatest comeback story? Like, would you put him up there with like a Kurt Warner type of story in terms of someone being down bad and then turning it all around and having a really successful NFL career? Because that
It'll
man
never
was labeled a
Yeah, nah, he was a
bust.
write-off. He was a cast-off. I mean, he'll never be as down bad as Kurt Warner until he's stocking shelves and like throwing toilet paper, working the midnight shift. But he is certainly one of those quarterbacks, and actually, we've seen it. There's a couple of them in the league. Geno Smith being one of them is like a cast-off, a backup. All right, we gave you a shot as a first rounder, and you didn't pan out, and then you bounced back and like you had a rebirth. And Baker Mayfield was 100% that, and a lot of it tells me that it is where you're at. I mean, his last stop was Cleveland. That should say enough. And then you bounce Cleveland, all of a sudden you're in sunny Florida and you're the second coming. I'm not going to say TB12.
Yeah,
Damn,
please
he
don't
didn't
say
win a
that.
Super Bowl. But like all of a sudden, you are the first round pick that everybody thought you would be in Cleveland. And then when you were a stopgap in Carolina, and then, oh, yeah, he won a couple games out in LA. And now he's found a place in Tampa. They gave him the extension to show for it.
I think that maybe one of the most impressive things about Baker Mayfield, though, is that despite living in Florida full time, he's still that color. It's very, very hard to be that color in Tampa. But alas, he finds a way. I want to picture my Baker Mayfield when he's not, wearing his helmet, like having someone shield him from the sun with a little parasol or something like
Oh,
that,
yeah. Well, I think
wearing Shiseido.
people want to believe that he's probably just pale like I am right now because I can't figure out my lighting situation because he stays clocked in that film room and you got to keep it dark in there.
Yeah, you guys, for those of you that are just listening via, a Spotify, this is just an audio show for you. I can't explain to you, most people as the show gets more popular and grows and gets bigger, which is we're so lucky that the Elle Duncan show has been able to do because of all of you who listen, who talk about it, who jeer and cheer, because we always pay attention to the
We love
people
them
that
both.
jeer. But there's a lot of people who show a lot of love and a lot of support. Those people exist too. Sometimes your detractors are louder, but we've got a lot of great supporters. But because of that, the show has gotten bigger and there's more eyeballs. And typically, that would inspire someone to improve their setup, to get a better camera, to get additional lighting. And for Gary, it's going backwards. I mean, at some point, he's just going to be coming to us from like a fax machine.
Elle, do you hear that?
What is it?
What? No, is that your oven going off? I think something needs tending to. I think it's time to wrap up this pot. Is that your air fryer or something?
My kids need rearing, y'all. Someone's got to put them to bed, get their teeth brushed, change them into their clothes, and get their lunches made. So I'm going to have to go.
My kids need rearing. Oh my God.
Incredible. It's got to be tough. I've got some friends that are Chiefs fans, and I'm like, man, it's got to be hard. You want to win, but you got to win off that leg. Ugh.
Hey, winners win, man. Winners win. Winning makes us all blind. It's all good.
Gary, I hope you have the best time at the White House. Don't
Okay.
embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass your mom. And more
No bruises.
importantly, for those of you that are listening, watching, please subscribe, tell people about it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll post again on Thursday. In the meantime and in between time, Gary, name drop the podcast to Joe Biden.
I
He's going to
will.
be like, what's a
He'll be
podcast?
like, what's a podcast?